Hey guys, this is VaulSC. Hope that you're having a good week. As you may remember, there was a Infinity Tabletop Simulator League recently, Season 3 to be exact. And what we did there is we got together 87 different players from all around the world, played a 5-round league, a tournament on Tabletop Simulator. Then after the 5 weeks, everybody was ranked, and I took the top 10 players and allowed them to play a 6th round, just to make sure that we really made sure that we got the right winners and losers out of that bunch. And what I asked them to do after the tournament was finished is that I asked everybody who made it into the top 10 to send me a DM with the link to their army list. And I did that because I know that a lot of you guys out there who play Infinity, a lot of you guys love list building and you're very interested in the kind of army lists that really winning experienced players actually take. And I thought I'd put things together in this YouTube video for you to present that, because let's face it, a lot of us like building lists and thinking about army lists as much as we do actually playing the game. So in this video, I will just briefly run through every single list played by the top 10 in the final round 6, which was for the mission Oblique Assault. If you want to know more about the league, obviously there's videos on my channel about that and stuff on the Discord. So yeah, hope you guys like this video. We're going to go straight through it, starting with the person who actually won the tournament. Went 6 games undefeated, and that person was Pandabeastmode playing Toha. Toha, I don't think there's any denying it really from anybody. Toha really are extremely powerful, in my opinion too powerful. They need to see some nerfs in the long run. I don't really trust Corvus Belli to really fix a lot of things, but number one, symbiomates are still too powerful. They have been ever since they came out. Even though they've gone through changes, they're just still too powerful. Symbio bombs aren't exactly a lot worse or better than them. They are really, in my opinion, quite broken as well. This is a faction that's extremely efficient with its triads, and the macro's extremely cheap and things like that. Back in N3, Toha missed out on a few things. For example, they couldn't put assisted fire on a Bulleteer or a Rushi or something like that, but assisted fire isn't really the same as what it used to be. And then, of course, there's the in-game tactics, which, of course, the TACL provides. Pandabeastmode took 2 of them, and the other Toha player who made it into the top 10 also took 2 of them in his list. I don't really think this is a matter of, oh yeah, it's good sometimes and it's not good other times, and there are other things you can put in your list and it's not an auto-include. That the ability to attack something without requiring line of sight to it in a very reliable way. We're not talking about speculative fire here. This is something which is actually very good at just killing things in an auto-efficient way with no risk and penalty to you. It's a bit much, and that's generally how I'm feeling. So Pandabeastmode ran, and the bat rep is online, by the way. If you guys want to see this list in action, just go check out the finals game of the league between him and Denicol. Denicol was playing Caledonia, and we'll have a look at his list shortly. But Panda was playing the Sukiul heavy machine gun, excellent profile. You can put a symbiomate on it if you want to, but it's just a guy with mimetism and 5 burst, decent ballistic skill, and he can tank a hit because of a symbiont armor, and he's only 34 points. I just find that ridiculous. The Tacule goes in with that. You've got a Tacule chain of command here. The other Tacule's the Lieutenant, so very hard to go into Lost Lieutenant. And these guys are usually fighting you from behind a wall anyway. Pretty crazy. The Maka all there to put down the Eclipse grenades. You're always going to have some Makuls in your Toha list if you know what you're doing. The Garel over here is obviously going to be linking up with a couple of other people for a triad. The Kael'tars give you that option if you want to put both of them into the triad, but you don't necessarily have to. I like the Karel because the Karel provides the smoke grenades for the Galrel to just shoot through effectively, as well as just being really good defensively with that Symbio Beast, or if it's the only thing you have available for attacking, does that job very well. Greif Operator, he's just so useful when you want to, go first and you need to do some attacking, but you don't want to trade something valuable. The Greif Operator is extremely good at hunting down flash pulse spots, and everybody takes them, so your MSV1 ignores their mimetism, you've got surprise attack, you're hitting them with a really good range band, you're outflanking things with your deployment. He's just really, really, really good, and if he dies, it's only a 20-point dude, you haven't lost the game. The cowries are brilliant for defending deployment zones. They're only 12 points. They're a great cheerleader, and if they trade with something because of their nanopulsar or their SMG or their mines, it's just brilliant. If somebody leaves their model next to the cowrie can then activate and has those 3 options. So we talked about the Tercules. This second group seems to have your basic KML Fort Observer in there. The Diplomat. I can't believe they gave this 5-point Diplomat Fair-Aware Tactics Eraser. I mean, they didn't need to do that. It was something that people were taking in Toha lists in N3 before. They didn't need to just soup them up like that, which I find crazy. And of course, the ever-broken Liberto mine layer, which in fact got cheaper. I mean, the argument stands that he did lose his anti-tank gun, and he doesn't have this and that, and it's easier to spot which one's the mine now. But still, at 8 points, this model is still overpowered. So, this is not really an eyebrow-raising list. It's not really, trying out some weird and wonderful combination. This list made it to the end of the tournament and won all 6 games. So, I take it back. It's not this list that was used for all 6 games. Players were allowed to change the list every time, but this kind of approach to Infinity, just picking all of the optimal, efficient stuff and playing it as well as you can, that's good enough to win tournaments. You don't need to be super creative. And I'm not saying that Pandabeastmode's not a creative player. It's just that the way that all of us at a higher level of Infinity approaches the game, we just take all of the best stuff in our lists, and at the moment this is pretty much all of the best stuff for Toha. Let's move on and have a look at his opponent that also made it. Now, this guy's achievement, really, of getting to the finals of an 87-player league with Caledonia is really, really interesting, because a lot of us feel at the moment that Ariadne in general, not very powerful. Caledonia doesn't seem to have a lot going for it. The problem is that the 15-unit cap is very restrictive for Ariadne, and they don't seem to have gained a lot of buffs. Everybody else has had the advantage of picking up really good hacking options. Ariadne still doesn't have any of that. Smoke is easier to shoot through with the increase of MSV1 becoming a tool for that. But despite that, Denicol has managed to get through, 5 people and beat them all with Caledonia, and this is a bit of a eye-opener here to see how he's been doing that. Again, he may not have been running a list similar to this for all 6 games, but this is what he showed up to play in the finals, knowing that he'd be playing against Toha and Oblique Assault. So, a few things that I agree with here. The double SAS, just really solid. Again, with the 15-unit cap, you're wanting to invest in some mid to expensive range stuff that happens to be optimal to make up the points. SAS are really good for that because they achieve that trifecta of having the camouflage, being a specialist, and being an infiltrator. That triple combo of abilities is so desirable in Infinity in general. But these guys also bring really good martial arts, close combat abilities, so they're a bit like a ninja, but a lot cheaper, and in some ways better at shooting than a ninja as well. So definitely agree with that. Uxie McNeil, unfortunately, he's run into Toha here, so Uxia, it's very difficult to just deploy her next to the Toha player and get damage done, because they've got all the symbio mates, symbio bombs, they've got the Kari Sentinels. It's hard for her to get value and cut through these symbio mates. So I don't know if I actually would have taken her, to be honest. I would have been looking at Catarans and some other jank there, but she is an extremely good piece. So especially if you can get the Cameronian up and throw a smoke grenade for her to then move out through, your opponent has to declare a dodge and she can just shoot them through the smoke. The MSV1's not as good at doing that as, say, Kodali is with MSV2, but you still are in principle able to do that. Then, of course, we've got the Wallace link with the Highlander Grey. You need that. You can't really play Caledonia competitively without having a Highlander Grey HMG in your link. You just need something which does the shooting in this game. My reservation, though, is that the heavy machine gun doesn't have AP, and we're now playing in an environment where you're expecting to see the occasional, well, not the occasional, the very common Avatar, Marut, Cutter, stuff like that, which is going to tank too many of your shots. And especially with the new localized decompression zones, the HMG isn't going to cut through them very well, which means that I sort of rate Caledonia much lower. But if you are going to be running Caledonia, you still need to take the Grey. In fact, he's taken another couple of Greys in the little trio with the Mormare. Again, like, I don't think that you really get your points worth out of these 3 models, but you've got to take some expensive stuff to make it to the 15 unit cap, which I find, really troublesome, but, he makes it work. I don't think he played this particular Harris very well in the actual game, but you can see how it has a lot of potential and packs a lot of punch if you're doing well with it. Then, of course, you've got the triple Cameronian. I would prefer to see McMurray in there, even though they're quite similar. McMurray, he's just got a little bit better with the close combat side of things, I believe. Yeah, so the Cameronian doesn't actually have martial arts, as far as I can see there. McMurray also has a slightly better close combat weapon, so for the difference in points, 7 points, I'm pretty sure I could have dropped Uxia or changed this group around and put McMurray in there. You can even have McMurray plus the 3 Cameronians, because Wallace is actually able to turn them all into regular order troopers, with the inspiring leadership. Anyway, pretty cool list, and I understand why this approach to Caledonia allowed him to get to the finals. I suspect he got a little bit lucky along the way as well, but Denicol, decent player. So for Caledonian players, don't lose hope. It is possible to be competitive with these kinds of options. Moving on, I believe this is White 001 playing Haqqislam. I think that he made it to second place in the overall standings, which was really cool. So let's have a look at what his take on Vanilla Ariadne was. We've got the Azrael AP Heavy Machine Gun. I like it. The Azrael has suffered for a long time in Infinity history, but after they gave him continuous damage, he just becomes so much more threatening now. He's the kind of model that you can appropriately shoot at something in a link team or a tag, and over several volleys, the chances of actually inflicting critical and crippling damage is a lot higher. You definitely want to have the Doctor to repair him, and of course White has the Ghulam Doctor there, so I approve of this choice. Again, I don't think it's as efficient as some of the options that other factions have, but you need something in the current meta of Infinity and 4 to do long-range shooting with high burst, and the Azrael is a decent choice for Haqqislam. Al-Hawa Hacker, extremely efficient midfield hacker with willpower 14. I like it. The boarding shotgun also very good for a midfield specialist in camo. And then a hub is just packed full of special abilities. So amazing martial arts, you've got Berserk, you've got Dodge +2, Natural Born Warrior, NWI plus Immunity Shock, Immunity Critical as well. You got a whole bunch of good bits and pieces. As long as you know what you're doing, you're not just throwing this model away. It can just perform so well, so I don't mind this choice. Zalika is a choice I'm seeing quite a lot more from a lot of Haqqislam players these days. She's only 11 points, but her potential is very high. So she's great with smoke, amazing in close combat. She's got an explosive close combat weapon now. The flamethrower +1 burst is really good. Breaker pistol +2 burst. For 11 points, this is just a steal. Just a really good unit. Double Krakot Renegade, which I don't see people taking very much these days, but Krakots still have chest mines, which are very good. They still have very good close combat ability. They're still very cheap. So I really don't mind them. The Mukhtar, again, hasn't really got any worse. The Mukhtar has always been very efficient. The only thing about the Mukhtar is that with just damage 13 on the Red Fury, getting criticals doesn't matter as much when you're up against very heavily armored targets. Even somebody with armor like 5 or 6 in cover, a Red Fury crit might just get saved because of that armor going through. So that's a difference between N4 and N3 that affects the Mukhtar negatively, but his overall abilities and just the way his stats are so optimized is a really big deal. Just hopefully he doesn't run into too many of those localized decompression zones which could slow him down. Farzan's just as good as ever. Mine layers are always very solid. Camille, of course, Fanhouse, as you do. Ghulam Nazmat, great. Ghulam Lieutenant with the +1 command token, that's really useful, especially if you're needing to spend the command tokens on Haqqislam units to convert the irregular to a regular. The additional command token, very cool. I love that he's playing Nauf. Nauf has been buffed because MSV1 now gets to see through smoke. The problem with Nauf is that he's still the kind of piece that's just going to go down to an HMG. He has shock on his gun, but he's not immune to shock from the enemy's gun, so you might just lose him. That could be a 32-point investment just dying, and he doesn't have marker state, but this player obviously really likes him. He's very powerful actively. I guess what you'd want to do with him is just try not to squander him. Obviously, Liberto, most experienced players and competitive players agree that the Liberto is still just like really, really good. And Motiwa, even though they've been heavily nerfed, they're still very, very powerful because of the jammer and because of their equipment and stats. So, pretty good list over here from White. Then we have Lobo, who I believe came third. What really strikes me about this Nomad's list is that it's so similar to what I myself believe to be is the best Nomad's list. So I don't know whether Lobo took a look at one of my bat reps playing Nomads and thought, okay, maybe I'll try that approach for my finals game because VaulSC was playing it. I kind of doubt that, but it's possible he picked up a couple of ideas. What's more likely is that both me and this particular player have independently converged on the optimal Nomad setup because it's got the Puppet Masters, it's got Jazz and Billy, it's got the Chimera and Pupniks, it's got the Morans, and you're still able to afford a Salamandra. So it's almost like, if you and somebody else both move to the same city, and you're both looking for, the best restaurant in town, you both happen to find it, and you happen to see each other eating there. That's sort of the experience I have reading this list, because, Nomads are probably the best faction in Infinity N4 at the moment. I'm kind of feeling that at the moment, just because when you run this kind of list and your opponent is playing something like, vanilla Panoceania, for example, it feels like you've got around about 330 points worth of stuff, and your opponent's got 300 points worth of stuff. It's just pretty sickening. He's also running the Vertigos on, which I also run. A couple of differences I'm spotting here is that I run at least 1-0 out in the midfield, whereas he's got the Evo Hacker, the Stemplazond, which I don't really take. He's running a moderator, lieutenant, and a moderator decoy, which is fine. I think in my list I run something like the Securitate or something like that. Morlock, yep, take that as well. I mean, there's nothing really here that I can criticize. It's just all the best stuff for Nomads, and it's just so difficult to deal with. All those extra bodies you've got out there, the extra Puppet Mots and the Pupniks and so forth. It's just hard to cut into this list and deal with its order pool. There's so much danger of you being hacked. If you leave things out of position, the puppet bots or the tag can wreck you. If you come in range of the Morans and the Repeaters, you're in for a world of pain. And it's just so easy for this Nomad list to put Spotlight on you and then just hit you with the Vertigos on. So I really wish some of this stuff would get nerfed. It's just, it's something which gets me down. Okay, so this list is called Flipping Houses E. I think this one belongs to Gyro. Gyro plays a lot of Sphinx lists. This is his combined army Sphinx list. I do agree with the fact that he's got a mentor in there, because you want to be alpha striking with your Sphinx, getting a lot of damage done. He's got a very sort of light group 2, really, just with Tigers there to defend, to make sure that he gets his turn to move out with the Sphinx. Again, I don't know whether it's just because this player has watched a lot of stuff that I do with Combined Army and picked up some ideas, or whether we have independently converged on, the best profiles for Combined Army. Again, I suspect it's the latter. I don't think that, people are out there going, okay, VaulSC's taking these profiles, I should take it as well. But no, everything that he's taken here are things that I recommend and that I take myself. Every single profile here. So, again, totally recommend this sort of stuff. If you're a Combined Army player and you like the Sphinx, this is the kind of list you should run. This player made it very far in the tournament, due to a combination of probably good play, good luck, and, good list profiles. Okay, now this is Perjan. He said to me that he runs this not just for my league, but his other leagues that he plays in. He very rarely changes up much stuff. As you can see, there are 4 Asawiras, and the reason why is just the Asawira profile is cheap, and it's just really heavily optimized. You've got the movement speed, you've got the amazing close combat, you've got BS Fizz and Whip all 14. It's just ginormous stats. Arm 4, BTS 9. These are stats you'd expect to see on a more expensive profile. being able to dodge further is great. Being a wildcard linkable thing with regen as well. It's just mind-blowing how optimized this unit is. So he's taken 4 of them. Just can't be mad at that at all. He's able to spread out the gear between them all. And what they can do is they can all join this Muib. He's got a nice old heavy rocket launcher there. And of course the tactical awareness to help the team move up. Yara Haddad, again, this is a wild card, so what he can do is just wild card this into the Asawira team. And I'm calling it the Asawira team rather than the Muib team. But it allows him to have some MSV2 there, which I think is important. You're going to be putting some smoke down with your Motiwas, and if your opponent's defending with smoke, you can cut through that. But also AP Marksman Rifle, it just allows you to cut through an Avatar or a Cutter reliably once you've got the smoke there. So I don't disagree with that Yara choice at all. I imagine that what he's doing a lot of the time is he's keeping one of the doctors outside of the link team just so that they can activate, do some shooting. If one of them goes down, he can move the doctor up and revive them without breaking the link. Or the other doctor can just stay further away to help with something else. Ghulam, so this is the NCO with the smoke grenade launcher. The cool thing about that is you can spend the lieutenant's order on the Ghulam and put down a smoke grenade to move up through with the Yara. I quite like that. I mean, Persian, I'm sure, has a lot of different tips and tricks with this list that I am not aware of because, I haven't really seen it played and I haven't really been playing Assassins. But intuitively, from reading this, I can see the value of a lot of this stuff. Group 2, obviously, again, you're not spending a lot of orders in Group 2. You're just having that there as AROs, or if you're going first, the Daylamis typically either just find really annoying spots to deploy, or they infiltrate on the other side of the board and just do a little bit of work with their shotguns. Either just trade for something because they're worth 6 points, and if you trade for anything as a Daylami, you're trading up. Sometimes they'll even kill 2 or 3 things, making them amazingly absurd value, but obviously the bulk of the work's being done with Group 1, and Group 2 is just such a huge potential for bonuses and slowing your opponent down, trading up for powerful things. I really endorse this way of playing Assassins, and I really rate HB as being a top tier list at the moment, top tier faction. If you think of all of the Infinity playable factions just spread out, I would say that these guys are in the top 10% for sure, because they can run a combination of really optimized lists, profiles like we've got here. Okay, so this, I believe, is Hot Fresh Tofu. He's another Haqqislam player, but he's taking a very different approach than White 001. So we've got Saladin, which says to me that he really wants to be playing, aggressively here. This is for the Oblique Assault mission, meaning that he's probably wanting to be taking first turn. So with Saladin, you've got a good chance of winning the roll. You've got Strategos level 2 there. Hopefully you get the Fide in and doing some damage, and I guess that's why the Fide's there. He's also got the 2 Daylamis to back that up. Double Mukhtar, I think 1 Mukhtar's enough. Personally, I'd prefer to see the approach that White did with the Azrael, or just something else which, has a more beefy gun. Maybe one of the tags, probably not the tags to be honest, or just an Asawira, even though you're not linking it, because you need the armor piercing. Again, the Mukhtars are great at winning face-to-face rolls, but I'm just really concerned if you're trying to cut through an Overdron, or a battle tag that has 8 armor or something like that. If it's in cover, armor 11 versus damage 13, you're saving on a 3+, and some tags require you to do like 5 wounds to them to remove them from the board. So if you're coming across some opponent who just has it locked down, that's really hard to deal with, and they may put it as a reserve trooper that is nowhere near the Fide, so I just worry about that approach. Hot Fresh Tofu did do very well to get into the top 10, so kudos to him. He's taken Zulika just like White did, because again, it's just a really undercosted profile right now. Farzan, just in case Saladin goes down, I really like it. And Nadir, obviously extremely powerful, just like your mini Noctifer basically, really, really good. So yeah, the only difference that I would make in this list is taking out a Mukhtar and perhaps spending some more of the SWCs on things that can be more efficient in those cases where you've got a crack armor. That's sort of how I feel about it. Moving over to Papu. Papu made it in top 10. He took a variety of different lists through the event. This one seems to be a Shishkin list. Shishkin's in the second group. The Speculo and Q-Drone are in the first one. Again, he's taken a lot of really good profiles. It's sort of like me. I play Combined Army a lot. I can't see a single profile here that I don't normally recommend, except for maybe the Overdrawn Plasma Sniper. I personally prefer the rocket launcher, or if you're really going all in on the Overdrawn and you're playing on some really wide open tables, the HRMC is good. With the Plasma Sniper, yeah, he's got a different kind of template now. It's hard for him to win a lot of face-to-face rolls actively if he's only got 3 shots. I mean, you try beating up on a missile launcher or a link team or something, even your 3 burst. I mean, you don't want to be going up against like a Grenza missile launcher with this guy. He'll just tear you to shreds, even though it's your active turn. So not great. Whereas with the rocket launcher, you just sort of keep him out of the way a little bit, and you just cover some more narrow fire lanes and just save him for a bit. Just use him as a speed bump, and try not to spend too many points on him. If I just click on him here, so you can get the rocket launcher for 51 points, saves you about 7 points over the Plasma Sniper, which I personally recommend. Everything else, though, looks really, really solid. Shishkin, although she's not what she used to be with the Fatality level 2 critting all the time, she's still extremely good. And the way that close combat works nowadays, even though, again, she doesn't have +1 burst, the damage that she can put out now is pretty absurd. I mean, you're talking physical 15, and you've got a double action close combat weapon. The Phys 15, I think, is +3 damage, so it's physical 18. And if you crit, they've got to take 2 saves, plus another one for the double action, and that's all stacked up with Protheon. Or if you want to, you can just pop a D-charge. Although I tend to like the DA close combat weapon a bit more because it's just the physical, the strength is just so much higher. So really, really solid. I like that the Mentor's in there so that you can have counterintelligence. I imagine that what he probably likes to do is, when it's his turn, maybe switches Shishkin and something else to an order pool so that she's got way more orders, and then just rush her in there. Probably after the Speculo's been used, you can just sort of consolidate your groups a bit, and Shishkin can go on a massive rampage. She's no Norkius when it comes to close combat, but Shishkin is way better at shooting than Norkius, so that's why you may prefer her. Papu may have looked at my Oblique Assault map and thought, well, I like this map more for the Red Fury range band than I do for Norkius jumping into close combat, and that could have been the decision. Okay, so this is Dev. He's taken a Spiral Core list. I must admit there are a few things I haven't really studied for N4 and Spiral, so we'll have to take a look through. We've got the Rasail with the Viral Combi Rifle. That can be very useful against a lot of the McMurrays and things out there. I'm not too sure who he was playing against in the finals, but seems like a pretty solid unit. You can put your Symbiomate on this guy and he can do a lot of work. Dral Mine Layer. The Dral is very expensive, but he comes with a lot of handy little tools. I don't think the Drals have one of the items that they did in N3. There was this really janky piece of equipment that I had that made like a saturation zone or something crazy, and I'm not too sure if it still has that. But looking at its profile, it does seem fairly solid, and the forward deployment's really nice as well for getting the mine layer out there. And it does seem to have a Fire Team Triad, so you can put it next to a few other things that are out in the midfield. So there's a Dral. There's actually a couple of Dral mine layers there, actually, so that's what he's going to be doing. He's just going to be sending them out there for a Triad, most likely. I think I noticed a Tagma Tricor as well. You may notice that this list doesn't really have any HMGs or Spitfires or anything, but when you've got that, what is it called? It's the ability that makes them, so the Tricor makes them basically a fire team core. You can win quite a few face-to-face rolls with your Burst 4 Breaker Combi Rifle or Viral Combi Rifle or whatever it may be. That can be really brutal. He's taken 3 Helots as well, so this list defends extremely well. Oblique Assault is a mission where going second is pretty good if you can stop your opponent doing a lot of damage over the course of the game, and then just move on to the objectives, and I think that may have been his strategy here. He's even got the Clip Sauce, which I love, because the Clip Sauce, it's hard to take it down because of hidden deployment, obviously, and then you just basically come out of hidden deployment and score. Although he hasn't taken a Clip Sauce Specialist, which is interesting, because for this mission I would have thought that the Clip Sauce Forward Observer would have been great for coming out and just bumping into one of those objectives and winning the game that way. So that's probably what I would have done. And of course the Diplomatic guy here, just like the other Toha players, you may as well take him, he's got a racer, right? Then we had Hannibal, who also was playing Toha. We had a guy drop out. There was a combined army player that couldn't make it for round 6, so Hannibal was in the 11th slot, so we moved him up. So Hannibal is also taking 2 Tacules with the end game, just like Panda was. You guys can see that this is a profile that is too powerful. It's not like Toha players are, there's any ambiguous about whether to take them. Endgame is just really too good, and that's why they're in there. He's taking a different approach, though, with lots of Chuckses, which tends to be something I like, because you save a lot of points and you can dump those points into other things. Where he's dumped them into, though, I'm not too sure if I like it. He's got the Drow there, which I feel like is more of a spiral core kind of option. I prefer, in the context of Toha, to be taking more of the Gaurails and Sukiuls as my personal preference and style. Again, there's this 5-point Diplomatic guy. I mean, everybody who can take him is taking him at a high level, apparently. Liberto, same kind of deal. Got the Keltar chain of command. Do we have 2 Keltars in this list? I don't think so. Oh, no, there are two Keltars. And he's gone with the Jan Star approach, which is not something that Panda did. Panda went with just the Greif Operator, which is something I prefer because he's less of a commitment than Jan Star and still does a lot of damage. Jan Star can run into a few things which shut you down, but it may have been a choice based off of who you're actually facing, because all of these players knew which opponents they'd be up against in the final round, so it could have been because of that. And I'm not in any way dissing Jan Star. I think Jan Star is just amazing, especially because you could put a Symbiobomb onto him, or a Symbiomate, and deploy him without using the impersonation state, just using the impersonation rule to actually get across the board and deploy next to the person's deployment zone, basically. So that's the last list. All 10 of these lists I feel are really, really strong. So if you're a new player and you're inexperienced and you're having trouble list building, these 10 lists should give you some idea of what competent players are putting into their army lists. It may give you some ideas of your own. And check the link in the video description if you'd like to just load up the army code and play some practice games with other people's lists, maybe modifying a little bit for your own purposes or the mission. But I thought you guys would enjoy this video. This has been a look at the top 10 lists for the top 10 players in the final round of the league that we just had, featuring 87 Infinity players. And congratulations to all of the guys who made it that far and did that well in the league. Hopefully we'll have another event soon so we can see more of your performances.